Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I was hesitant to make this one because I know it's going to be kind of controversial, especially with my own family and my own friends. But I really don't care because I think there's people out there that need to hear this and people that these things apply to. And again, that's a perfect segue into the intro, which is the stuff I'm about to go through. These things that people waste money on. I'm not saying they apply to every single person. I'll go into each one in detail and kind of explain more what I mean on that. But money is a tool to be used to make more money, to bless other people, to do good with. It's not inherently good nor evil. And so you want to be mindful of what you're spending it on and what kind of return you're looking for your why. So in your life, if you want to be a missionary and do whatever, money, you're going to have a different relationship with money and investing and whatever than somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur or a founder or someone who wants to be a parent. They want to be a stay-at-home mom. It's just different. But for my audience, which, my target is going after people that are starting out in entrepreneurship, people that want to run a company, people that are just getting started running a company. These are the top things that I think you want to be mindful of wasting money on. So the top things you want to be mindful of wasting money on. Number one I'm going to go into is taxes. So when you extrapolate out taxes as a whole, it's not as simple as just, federal or state tax, income tax, capital gains tax. But on average, so if you make $100,000 a year, by the end of that, you end up with less than 50% of it. That's through your income tax. That's through maybe toys taxes. So if you're in a state where you have a vehicle that has annual tax, for instance New Jersey, you would pay taxes one time on a car. But in a state like North Carolina, I believe, or Virginia, you pay taxes on that vehicle every year. So there's that. Then there's sales tax on just about everything. And so there are ethical and helpful ways that you can avoid paying a ton of taxes, especially as an entrepreneur. So I'm not a tax expert, but I know that there's a ton of ways to kind of bury your income, your debt burden. For example, having apartments or housing or creating housing, you can depreciate that asset, I think 27.5, which is however many years that you can depreciate upfront, right? So if you make a ton of money this year, but in the same year you bought an apartment building, you'd be able to, I believe, write off a huge chunk of that this year, even though in reality it should actually appreciate, which is an interesting thing because a lot of people get caught in, taxes are just really simple, I don't, whatever. You want to be mindful of how to play the game, I guess. I hate that phrase because it makes it sound kind of junky. It makes it kind of sound like evil, but there are things that the government wants you to do, right? And I brought up housing because it's a good example. If you create housing for people or you help, have this manage housing for people, that's housing that the government doesn't need to manage or handle or create, right? So there are incentives for doing those things. You want to be mindful of what those are. There are incredible resources out there that you can follow and people you can listen to get ideas on what those things can be once you have a tax burden. So I know most of my audience probably isn't there yet. The next thing is stuff. I think this probably applies. I know this applies more to me. This is the one that I'm most guilty of. I think most people are guilty of this one. We can fall into this trap of seeing what other people have and not, feeling like we don't measure up. Oh, they're younger than me and they have this and they have that. And it's really hard. There's a lot of people that I hear say things and I was this person. I'm actually talking to myself more than anybody. About a year ago, I had an opportunity to do coaching with Tony Robbins' team. And at the time, I was no, I can't afford it and blah, blah, blah. And I really started to think through that the more that I've listened to people like Myron Golden and Alex Hormozy and Tom Bilyeu and Tony Robbins. What does it mean that I can't afford it? What does that actually mean? And for instance, have you ever bought something that you didn't have the money for? Like, yes, the answer is yes. Have you ever bought a house or a car or paid for something with your credit card where you didn't have the money? The answer is yes. And so what you're really saying when you say, I can't afford it, is you're saying, I'm not resourceful, and or that thing I don't believe is valuable enough to me to spend the money on. So I think going back to stuff, we just want to be mindful of the things that we're buying. Like right now, I'm so excited about downsizing my car to free up like tens of thousands of dollars out of it, because I'm like, I don't need to have a nice car, and I can put that money for me. And I'm going to talk about savings on the next slide. But for me, I can put money in an account, and right now interest is high, and so I can accumulate. I'd rather have the money out of my car that's depreciating, put it into a savings account that's getting 5%. It's doing nothing in either case, and I can get a crappier car that does the same things that my car now does. So being mindful of the stuff. If you're riding around in Air Jordans and you have a 75-inch plasma screen, and you're telling, you're someone that wants, you want to do coaching with someone, you're like, I can't afford it, you should check yourself. The next thing that I'll say is saving money. So stop wasting money on saving money. This one it's an interesting one. Right now we're in a high interest environment. And so you can have a bank account a savings account where you're putting 5% in, not a CD, not some other thing, like an actual savings account where you're just getting 5% on holding your money there, and you can take it out whenever you want. So why would I tell people not to do that? Like I said in the beginning of the video, I think for some people that will make sense. For me, I have money stored in my car, which is a depreciating asset. I don't yet have the skills to get 20% return on my $10,000, $20,000 that I could pull out of my car. So I'm better off putting it in a 5% interest account. But over the long run, you want to be mindful of savings, because someone that puts money in a savings account when interest is not so high, like 5 years ago, the last 5 years, say it's around 3% or 4% or whatever, 2%, that it's been for savings accounts. When you look at inflation and you look at what you're getting on return, you're probably going into the negative. If not, you're probably breaking even, if not going into the negative. So you just want to be mindful about, your strategies on putting money and saving money and storing money away. I think there's times when it makes sense, and there are certainly times when it's really a foolish thing to do, because your money could be making more money somewhere else, and it should be. The next one, and this is where it's going to start to get pretty, I guess, political and drama with people, and people are going to disagree, and that's fine. But stocks and crypto. I think stocks, like I've had a lot of friends that, day trade. I even was day trading myself during 2020. And there are some stocks that I believe in. I would day trade companies that I believe in, that I have faith in, that I want to see do well. And I still have a couple shares in some startups that I, really support, and I want to see them succeed. But it is, at the end of the day, it's gambling. Like, it is legalized gambling. Like, there is, I think the S&P average, it's like I tried to Google it before this video, and it's like I saw some data that suggested that, the average return on the S&P averaged out over years and years and years was like under 9%, under 10%. Then I saw data that was under 8%, around 7%. So, and then if you factor in inflation, again, it's like you're really getting a marginal increase on your money for gambling around. And now I'm not saying that that's not smart to do, that you shouldn't have a 401k. You should do those things. You should have those things. I think they're good. But I think putting all of your eggs in that basket, and certainly being that crazy person that rides the roller coaster and is watching a stock and is freaking out when it's doing bad and is excited when it's doing good and freaking out when that is foolish. Like, you might as well just give your life force away by drinking and smoking. Like, get off that roller coaster. Put your money into your 401k, S&P 500, whatever, if you want to do that, if that's your strategy, but don't ride that roller coaster. But the reason I say stocks and crypto, and I'll get into crypto in a second, is what purpose do they really serve anymore? I think the intention behind stocks was to put your support behind a company, to say you believe in this thing, say you're behind it, say you want to support it. And to give the ability to that company to have this way of raising capital. So I don't see that as really being what it's for anymore. I feel like it's moved so far away from what it was initially meant to be, and the problem that it was initially meant to solve. And this goes way back. I mean, if you look at, I believe it was Rockefeller, when he got kind of swindled by these people buying stocks. I forget if it was Rockefeller or somebody else. They were like, these folks in Boston were creating they were buying up stocks, and they were doing some shady thing, and it's like they were able to take over some level of majority control of the company, or I forget the story. I probably shouldn't have commented on it. But going back years and years and years, 100 years ago, stocks have had people playing games with them, trading them, not based on the value of the company or the thing or the problem or the mission of the company, but rather playing with it as monopoly money. And listen, if you're a day trader or whatever, and that's your life's mission, like, go for it. But for a lot of people that are out there are better ways to invest your money. And I think the same thing with crypto. Like, I've met so many people that believe in crypto. I had a friend early on that invested like $200 in Bitcoin and then sold when it was like $20,000. And I know plenty of people that have made a lot of money on it. I know, the benefits of it are supposed to be that it's decentralized and whatever, and that, like, what does that mean for my grandmother? What would that mean for an older person? Like, what problem does it solve that you're going to tell an 80-year-old person, like, this is why you should have crypto? That is my problem with it. As a person with a product manager background, as a person that wants to found a company, I just don't see what problem that crypto really solves. Oh, it's more secure. Your data is not out on the internet. I don't know how many people have had their token or whatever stolen on the internet or some crazy thing, and then they weren't able to access their money. Or, the infamous scenario where they were blocked from being able to, exchange on one of the marketplaces because one of these shady companies was doing something, or because everybody was trying to exit the crypto market, and so the exchange shut down trading. And that happens with stocks too. But crypto right now in its current state, and I'm not saying blockchain, I'm saying crypto specifically, I don't think it solves enough of a problem to warrant the majority of people that are invested in it investing in it. When you have people investing in it just for the sake of investing in it because they want to get in the game, that's a really dangerous place to be. You have people doing something, you have literally people drunk driving. They're getting involved into something that they really shouldn't be in. They have no idea why they're doing it. Everyone else, the masses, are just doing it. Let those people zig. The other people that want to start a company, the people that want to invest their money wisely, you need to zag. And so the next one that I'm going to go into is probably going to be the height of scandalous. And again, I'll get into it, but it's college. I think higher education, college, it can be a huge waste of money for a lot of people. I know plenty of people that have had MBAs and gotten PhDs, and now they're bartenders, albeit maybe in New York City, but they're literally bartenders that went to Brown or they went to Columbia, or they went to wherever, and they're just, making not minimum wage, but enough to just get by and live. And that is not an existence that I want for anybody. I don't think anybody should have to just scrape by. And so college makes a lot of sense if you're a doctor, if you're an engineer, there are trades where it makes sense. There are, very technical things where I want the doctor that's cutting me open, or the engineer that's building, the skyscraper I'm going to be in, or whatever. I want them to go to college. Like, they should. But there's a lot of people, specifically in my group that I'm talking to on the business side, where you don't need to go get your MBA. Like, you don't need to go do that. Like, and I'm not dissing teachers. Teachers are wonderful people. But if you look at the history of why the higher education system and high school were invented in the first place, it will blow your mind. That also ties back to, like, the founding fathers and Rockefeller and Carnegie Mellon and all that. So, like, that is a whole side tangent in and of itself. But you really got to question going to an MBA program. It's like, you're going to go to an MBA program and you're going to learn from a teacher that's probably never had a successful business. If they have had a successful business, I know that those people are out there too. It begs the question, are they really sitting in that class? Like, if you are really good at running a business and making millions and millions of dollars, why are you in a class teaching a group of kids? That's probably not a teacher that I would personally want to learn from. I would rather learn from someone that's actually doing it today, understands what the marketing challenges are today, the traffic challenges, hosting, shipping, all of those challenges. Like, I want someone that wasn't doing that 20 years ago. I'd rather learn from someone that's doing it today. And where I'm going with this is, college is not that much of a write-off. I think you can write off maybe $1,500. It's very marginal. But if you get a coach, a business coach, as a person that's looking to be an entrepreneur or get into business, you can write off a way, way, way larger chunk of that than you would be able to for college. And so I'm not saying that college isn't for everyone, or I'm not saying it's not for certain people, but I don't think it's for everyone. I don't think it's for people that want to get into business. I hear way too many people say, I need to have this in order to get into college and whatever. And if you just do the math, I mean, how much is your your MBA going to cost? What is the cost benefit analysis of that? I love what Alex Hormozi says. You're better off investing a lot of times in the S&Me 500, and taking a class, learning a course, getting a coach, and that will pay dividends that nobody can take away from you. Your odds of making six figures outside of getting an MBA, they're actually probably pretty high. I know a lot of people, if you're in the top of your class, you could end up going to a consulting firm and whatever, but your odds of certainly making seven figures, they're probably zero. Absolutely zero. But if you go and you get an incredible coach and you get a really good business coach that can show you the ropes, there's people that I listen to that have $1 million days. $1 million days. And I'm not saying that's going to happen for you or that happens for everybody. It is a process, but I think spending 24 months with someone that's having $1 million day is something I'm way more interested in spending money on than somebody that's teaching a group of kids that maybe in the best case scenario had a business 10, 20 years ago. That's my hot take on that. The last two I think are the most expensive, most foolish things. And so I saved these to the very end. Number one is ignorance debt. So what does that mean? There's a lot of people that talk about this in a lot of different ways. Alex Hormozi talks about it really well. Myron Golden talks about it. I've heard just about everybody talk about ignorance debt. So right now, if you're making, the way that Alex explains this is if your goal is to get to $1 million, let's say, and right now you're making $1 million a year, that is, and you're making $100,000 a year. Well, right now you're paying $900,000 every year in ignorance debt, not knowing how to get to $1 million. And it's a simple concept, but it's really profound when you understand it. And so it kind of ties into the next one, which I'm about to go into a second. But ignorance debt, the things that you don't know that are holding you back from where you'd like to go, are the number one most costly thing because they have a compounding effect. Just like the taxes one that I talked about as our very first point, once you figure out how to optimize your tax strategy, how to lower your tax burden ethically and legally, it's not just 1 year that you improve. It's year after year after year after year, and hopefully you're earning more and you're learning new tax strategies and you're able to offset your entire tax burden. Someone like Grant Cardone that pays zero in taxes, there is a way and a reason that he was able to do that, and so you should be learning that. That is ignorance debt. Ignorance debt is not knowing. It's the delta between where you are today and where you would like to go. That learning hasn't occurred yet, and so you want to pay down that ignorance debt by getting a business coach, reading books, learning online, whatever. And the next one that I love is cost of inaction. So you might see this abbreviated to COI, but it's cost of inaction. And cost of inaction is, what is this going to cost if I don't do it? And it's kind of tied into ignorance debt. This morning I heard someone talking about this in an interesting way. They were talking about, it was really interesting. They were talking about, someone was like, oh, I'm in a relationship coach. How should I price my coaching? And the way that this person in the podcast responded was, let's start breaking down. What does it cost to get a divorce, right? What does it cost? And so they started going into all these things, and it's whatever you have, it's cut in half. So right there, it's going to vary per person. Then you have, if there's kids involved, what's the cost of, now they have a step parent. What does that cost you? What does the cost to you if that step parent is abusive and all this other stuff? So he kind of goes into what is the cost of inaction on improving your marriage, on improving your situation so you don't have to go through that. Cost of inaction is something I think about a lot. What is the cost of inaction in terms of making these videos is uncomfortable? For me, it's awkward. There's people on the internet that are going to make fun of me and do whatever. But what is the cost of inaction in terms of me being able to positively impact the lives of people that I want to reach while I'm here on earth? What is the cost of me not taking action on doing this? And so for me, that's high because I feel like that is my purpose. That is what fulfills me. And I want to make sure I'm doing that. So what is the cost of inaction for you? What things, what is your ignorance debt? Where are you at now and where would you like to go? I would challenge you guys to think about all of these things. And again, I know not each one is going to apply for every person. If you're going to be an engineer that's building, civil engineering, please, go to your college. I want to drive on roads that are safe without sinkholes and things. But I hope this helps you guys. I hope this blesses you, and I hope you have a great week.